Welcome back to Faith-Infused Leadership. I am your co-host, Meredith Banka, here with our host, Debbie Heiser. She's the founder of Three Vines Consulting. And today we are talking about a very timely topic, which is abundance. So Debbie, where do you want to start with this? A huge topic.
Yeah, this topic is huge because abundance is never ending, right? And abundance can mean different things to different people. Some people look at abundance as financial freedom, as the financial part of it. That is an important piece of it if you own a business or are in business. And, money does help things, but it also isn't the only thing. To me, for me, and this is my experience and my opinions, abundance is also around relationship. And what kind of connections do I have to people? And is it reciprocal? And does it feel like it's a supportive relationship? Some of the things I've learned throughout time when it comes to abundance too is that if you're the smartest person in the room, then you need to find smarter people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a knock to people that I've been around in the past, but it just means that you need to spread your learning and that ability to learn, as well as taking what you know and providing and giving to others, your experiences in your past. When I see abundance, I also see this ability to give of my time and being able to give back to my community. And I will tell you, I had kind of a dichotomy happen that I then made a decision about. And I think this is really important as a business owner, that as a consultant, I was doing some work for nonprofits.
Mm-hmm.
I love nonprofit work. And I think a small, one of my favorite sayings is the one by Margaret Mead about, a small group of people can change the world, basically. She says it a little differently. But what I found is that I had this tension inside myself about charging what my rate was.
Mm.
And it wasn't necessarily associated with self-worth, but more about that I have such strong passion about 501(c)(3)s, and they're always trying to fundraise. And so, then looking at hiring a consultant, so I guess maybe there was some self-worth there, but ultimately what I realized is that I wasn't willing to give away my services unless I was involved in that 501(c)(3).
Mm-hmm.
And I struggled charging a 501(c)(3). So that was my internal junk that I worked through. And so I realized I don't want to work with 501(c)(3)s when it comes to being a consultant unless I'm a part of that organization.
Mm-hmm.
And that has served me well. And partially too, what I found is that in this realm of abundance, that there are times that I want to give myself away, and not just with 501(c)(3)s. And I think we'll talk a little bit more about that. But thinking back to that first question, when it comes to abundance, there's so many different ways to look at abundance. And to me, that's the most critical piece, is understanding what your own definition of abundance is. But then realizing that the first part of that law of abundance is serving. And so even as a consultant, I don't look at the people that come to me necessarily, I may refer to them as clients, but I look at it as how can I serve them? And so anytime I go into a meeting, I'm of service to them.
Yes. Well, and I think about it in a couple of the ways that you've talked about. I forever had a saying on my desk that was, when you realize that you have had enough, you will become truly rich. When you have enough. So abundance of what? And, that's one thought I had as you were talking. And then the other thought that I had was really in relationship to believing there is abundance. And I think that plays in as well, especially if you're talking about the self-worth thing, that like believing that there's not a finite amount of really anything, and believing that there is, enough of whatever it is you're seeking or working toward for you, as well as for the other people that are seeking and working toward the same thing.
Yeah, and that is critical, Meredith.
That's huge.
It's really big, because what I found is that when I focus on thinking, oh, I'm in competition with these other coaches, then I pop into fear. And we've talked about fear and love. And I have to trust that for me, you know, some people say universe, but for me, it's God, that those clients that I attract are the ones that I am going to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And each person has a different way of approaching it. And it was really interesting. I was just at a workshop this weekend, and I tend to like to do workshops. I think it's good to be a constant learner. And one of the things that the speaker said, and this resonated with me, is, are you playing to lose or are you playing to win?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, when I look at that scarcity mentality of there's not enough people out there that I can be of service to, I'm playing to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I hear you saying.
Totally. And the other piece that plays into it, I think, is the concept of envy. So when you see this other coach out there, maybe this is just a story you're telling yourself of, hey, I see this other coach and I'm sure they're making more money than me, or I'm sure they have more clients than I do, or I'm sure that their podcast has, you know, this, that, or the other, and I don't have that yet. How do you choose to look at that? Do you choose to look at that with envy, which is, again, that fear-based component, the position of lack, or do you choose to look at it as hope? Wow, they got that many clients, they were able to help that many people, they got that many followers, that much revenue, that much this, that, whatever it is that you're looking for. And that shows me that what I am playing to win is a winning game. It shows me it's possible. And so those are big ones for me when it comes to abundance. And I also like reflecting back on the conversation we had with Georgia. You know, I think of her transition from CEO of a company to president of a company, and then now choosing in retirement to really give of all of her skills. And how does that play into abundance? I mean, she's coming with the same treasure and talents that she was paid significantly for in her professional life, and giving at the same level for free.
Yeah.
the same skills. I mean, wow, that's abundance.
It is. And I find that when you're in those situations, I don't know about you, but part of the abundance for me is whenever I serve, I tend to get much more in return.
Mm-hmm.
And so that to me is part of that abundance also. And I think the beautiful thing too about giving is it may not be that you join a board, or it may not be that you become president of a board. It may mean that you mentor people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I think about Georgia, one of the things that I so appreciate about her is she is someone I can throw ideas off of. And that is important. And I've talked way back when about having a board of directors and not just one mentor. And she's someone that, as another woman, understands what that was like to be in a more male dominated field as a C-suite, and understands how to navigate that, as well as now navigating some things personally and professionally. Mm-hmm. So that's, I think, another important way to give back. I do want to talk about the flip side of that, though, because there is this law of polarity, right? And so sure. On the other side of that, sometimes, and I'm speaking to those of us that are consultants or coaches, sometimes that, any business actually, I've seen this happen in numerous different industries, where friends or colleagues reach out to you. And I've had this situation with a couple of people where they reach out and they want to talk through starting up their own consulting business. Mm-hmm. And there is this line where it's like, I want to be able to help you and support you, but you also have to understand that's my living. That's what I do for a living. And so I can't give you 10 free discovery sessions, you know. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can, and I do help people and I try to support them, but it's really important, and it's sometimes difficult as an entrepreneur to think about, how do I set up that boundary and say to someone, I'd love to spend more time with you, but you have to understand this is how I make my living. Mm-hmm. And so there does need to be some compensation, and that ties to self-worth as well.
It's so funny. So in my husband and I, we own a barbershop.
Mm-hmm.
And where this showed up for us was with my husband's career. And he would, once he went to school and he learned to cut hair, he would have people say, you know, if we were going out to his parents' lake house for the weekend, oh, you're going to be out at the lake. Hey, maybe you can just bring your stuff and cut my hair. And he, from the very beginning, he was like, but you know, you work on computers. I don't bring my computer to your house and ask you to fix it for me, you know, or whatever it is you do. You know, I don't ask you to just do that for me because you have a viewpoint that my business or my service is portable and easily brought to you. And it's the same here. You've got to draw the line and say, this is where I'm offering value and I need to be compensated for that. And that's okay.
And it's not always an easy conversation to have.
No.
But you know, I think if it's approached correctly, and I don't know if there's a right or wrong way to do it, but if it's approached with the intention of please understand, and particularly people that are wanting to start a consulting business, it's a good learning lesson for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or your husband being a barber, a good learning for someone if he was mentoring someone is to just don't even make that a thing. Like,
right.
Don't volunteer to cut someone's hair, you know, just don't even make it a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And do you feel though that also taps into if someone is giving a lot away,
Mm-hmm.
that maybe they don't fully believe in the value that they're bringing?
Absolutely, Meredith. And I've done it. You know, I've done it too, where in some of my packages that I offered early on, where I was giving away not only the time with me, but then it's like, call me whenever you want to, and, you know, this and that. And it was minuscule. And so then when I started to add up, well, I say minuscule, meaning what I was charging. And so then I started to add up all the time I was spending and realized that, you know, the hourly wage was probably below minimum wage, but you know, like once I started to think about that, and that really makes you think about then how you package that, because for me, giving back to people is about using my knowledge and my experience to help them, but there's also a value to that.
Mm-hmm.
And that I've had these experiences and I've been lucky enough to you know, or like Georgia said, she kind of would get tapped on the shoulder, and I was lucky enough to have that happen, where I was put into these positions that I learned a whole lot. And I just really feel passionately that I want to be there to help other people find that teacher within, but also to be able to add some truth bombs or some you know, some nuggets to allow people to find that teacher within and know which direction to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I also think with the giving, if you go in with the intention that it will also bring back to you more on the paid side of your business, right? That recognition and that giving is an important aspect, because it's a step in creating abundance.
Absolutely. And I think too, part of that abundance, Meredith, if I could be so bold as to put this little twist on it, is, you know, like I give away a free power session, a free consult. And I do that because I want to be able to provide some nuggets to people, and make sure too that it's the right fit, that they're going to gain some wisdom or gain something of value from me, and hopefully get some of that even during that half an hour session.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times that both parties realize this isn't the right fit, and then other times it's there. So I think too, when I think about abundance, it's about, I'm not giving away the boat, but I want people to know what's there, and I want them to see value in it. And so if I truly trust that things are going to happen, I'm going to be able to provide that, but then also being able to set up boundaries, which to me is about self-worth, and realizing that I'm going to love other people the way I love myself, and make sure I've set up those boundaries so that I'm not giving away what I do on a day-to-day basis for free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all so important. So as we think about wrapping up the conversation around abundance, the last question that I have for you is, how does this play into this time of the year? I mean, we are kind of at the onset of the holiday season. people struggle with gratitude. People struggle with there being too much. Where does abundance play in at this time of the year for you?
Yeah, during the holidays, and you as my audience will be hearing this in December, but this is right before Thanksgiving as we're taping this, and I think gratitude is such a big piece of that, Meredith, in the fact that it's scientifically proven that it changes your brain when you practice gratitude. And then I also think this time of year, there's times I wish we could bottle this and just sprinkle it throughout the year. People do tend to have more empathy, they have more compassion. And to me, that's part of being abundant, is realizing and empathizing with people and showing compassion to people versus getting annoyed. I read a story, and I'm sure some of you have heard this, about a father that was in the subway and his kids were completely acting up. And as they were getting ready to get off the train, there were people that were annoyed with them, and he apologized to them and said, "I'm sorry if my kids were a little wild. We just left the hospital where their mother died." And like this whole putting it in perspective, that you don't know what that other person's story is. And so if someone's being mean, they're being unkind, they're hurt. Hurt people hurt other people. And so showing that compassion and that kindness, even in times that's not around the holiday.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, for this episode of Faith-Infused Leadership, I know you'd love to tell people where they can go to get that free consultation. Can you help us understand, if that's interesting to one of our viewers, how they can take you up on that offer?
Absolutely, Meredith. Please go out to my website. It's 3, so it's spelled out, THREE, V as in Victor, consulting.com. There's a really easy button there that says, I think it says sign up for your free consults. And you just push it and it will take you out to a calendar to show you any availability that I have. I will say this time of year is a little bit harder to get in for a free consult. So take advantage of the times that I do have out there. But if you don't find one, look into January or February, and we'll be good to go.
Awesome. Well, for this episode of Faith-Infused Leadership, I am your co-host, Meredith Banka, here with your host, Debbie Heiser, and we will see you all the next time.